This is first-class boarding. You're in the wrong line. I have a first-class ticket, sir, seat 8A, says the black woman. You, first class. He laughs. Let me see your ID. Real ID, not something you printed at Kinko's. She hands it over. He snatches it, studies it like evidence. Patricia Knox. And you paid for this yourself? What, you win the lottery? I work in finance, sir. Finance? What, like a bank teller? He shoves the ID back at her. I've been doing this 16 years. I know what first-class passengers look like. You don't look like first class. 200 people watching. She says nothing. She could end this with one sentence. I'm the CEO who decides if your airline gets $5 billion. She doesn't. She wants to see what they do when they think no one important is watching. What happened next made national news. 5:15 in the morning. Patricia Knox's condominium in Charlotte, North Carolina. The coffee maker hisses on the granite counter. French press. A ritual she has kept since her first apartment after graduating from Howard University, when she couldn't afford a proper espresso machine and brewed coffee in a borrowed pot from her roommate. Now she could buy the entire coffee company if she wanted to. She still uses the French press every single morning. Some habits remind you where you started. Her mother's watch sits heavy on her wrist. Gold-plated, scratched from decades of daily wear. Worth nothing to anyone in the world except Patricia. Her mother wore this watch for 40 years as a registered nurse in Baltimore. Night shifts, double shifts, holiday shifts when everyone else was home with family. Never late for a single one. Never complained about the hours or the pay. Patricia wears it every day now. It grounds her, reminds her of what real work looks like. She opens her laptop at the kitchen counter and checks her calendar. The Federal Infrastructure Investment Board meets in Washington this afternoon at 2 o'clock. As CEO of Meridian Capital Infrastructure, Patricia manages the largest federal transportation fund in the entire country, $40 billion earmarked for roads, bridges, airports, and airlines struggling to modernize their aging fleets. Her job description is simple on paper. Decide which companies receive federal loans. Decide who survives another decade. Decide who doesn't make it. In practice, the job means reading thousands of pages of financial documents, sitting through meetings with executives who smile too much, and making choices that affect tens of thousands of families she will never meet. 3 loan applications sit in her review queue for this week. She opens the file marked urgent with a red flag. Horizon Atlantic Airways. Federal Infrastructure Loan Application. Amount requested, $5 billion. Purpose: fleet modernization, route expansion, debt restructuring. Internal deadline for decision, 45 days. She reads through the executive summary with careful attention. Horizon's fleet averages 18 years old. Maintenance costs are climbing every quarter. Fuel efficiency lags far behind competitors flying newer aircraft. The airline has already missed one debt covenant with their primary lenders last quarter. A credit rating downgrade from Moody's looms on the horizon if they cannot secure new capital. Without this federal money, the airline faces serious financial distress within 18 months. Bankruptcy is not just possible, it is probable. 12,000 employees depend on this company across the country. 40 cities are served by Horizon routes, many of them smaller markets that larger airlines have abandoned as unprofitable. Pension obligations exist for thousands of retirees who spent their entire careers pushing wheelchairs through terminals and loading bags in the rain. Patricia writes a note in the margin of the digital file with her stylus. Review financials in detail Thursday. Verify fleet age data independently. Final decision by Friday close of business. She closes the laptop and finishes her coffee. Her assistant Rebecca asked her once, about a year ago, why she still flies coach class on domestic trips when the company would happily pay for first class or even private jets. Patricia's answer was simple and direct. That's how I evaluate an airline before I approve their loan application. I want to see how they treat ordinary passengers, the ones who don't have connections or titles, the ones they don't think matter. That tells me everything I need to know about their corporate culture. Today, Patricia is flying Horizon Atlantic, Charlotte to Washington Reagan, the exact same airline currently waiting for her to decide their financial fate. She doesn't tell them who she is. She never does when she flies. If they know I'm watching, they perform. They put on their best behavior for the important person. I want to see the truth. I want to see who they really are when they think no one important is looking. Boarding begins in 10 minutes, and CEO Patricia Knox is about to get her answer. 6:40 in the morning. The gate agent picks up the microphone at the podium. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will now begin boarding Horizon Atlantic Flight 1162 with service to Washington Reagan National Airport. At this time, we invite our first-class passengers and those requiring special assistance to board. Please have your boarding passes ready for scanning. Patricia folds her newspaper carefully, tucks it into her leather briefcase. She holds a first-class ticket for this morning's flight. Seat 8A, window seat on the left side of the aircraft. She purchased it with her own personal credit card, as she always does when evaluating airlines for potential loans. No corporate expense account. No special treatment requests. She joins the short line forming at the jet bridge entrance. 6 people ahead of her in the first-class queue. Business travelers, mostly, checking phones and clutching coffee cups. A tired-looking woman with a sleeping toddler draped over her shoulder. A man in a blue Horizon vest stands at the boarding pass scanner. His name tag identifies him as a senior gate agent supervisor. The tag reads, Gerald Thornton. He has worked for Horizon Atlantic for 16 years, starting as a part-time baggage handler while attending community college. Patricia doesn't know any of this information yet. She will learn it soon enough. Thornton scans the boarding line with practiced eyes. His gaze moves methodically from passenger to passenger, assessing each one briefly. His eyes land on Patricia, move past her to the businessman behind her, then return to Patricia. They linger on her face, on her navy blazer, on her worn leather briefcase. She notices his attention immediately, says nothing about it, keeps her expression completely neutral. She reaches the front of the line, holds out her boarding pass to the scanner. The machine beeps once. Green light flashes on the display. Valid ticket. Everything in perfect order. She takes 3 steps onto the jet bridge. The carpet is worn thin from thousands of passengers. The walls show scuff marks from rolling luggage. The faint smell of jet fuel and recycled cabin air fills the enclosed space. Ma'am, stop right there. She turns around. Thornton has followed her onto the jet bridge. He stands 3 feet behind her. His hand is raised, palm facing outward in a stop gesture. Can I see your boarding pass again, please? She holds it out without comment. He takes it from her hand, studies it for much longer than necessary. His eyes move from the pass to her face and back to the pass again. This ticket says 8A, that's first-class seating. Class. Yes, that's correct. Do you have identification with you? She reaches into her blazer pocket, produces her driver's license. He takes it and compares it to the boarding pass with exaggerated care, checks the name letter by letter, checks the photo against her face. His frown deepens as if he has discovered something deeply troubling about her documents. There appears to be a discrepancy here. I need you to step aside, please. The jet bridge has gone completely quiet behind her. Other passengers have stopped moving. They are watching now. What discrepancy exactly? He doesn't answer her question directly. Step aside to the bench, ma'am. I'm calling for additional assistance. Patricia looks at him steadily for a long moment. Then she looks past him at the wall of the jet bridge behind his shoulder. The Horizon Atlantic logo is printed there in corporate blue and silver. The exact same logo appears on the loan application file sitting in her briefcase right now. The same company requesting $5 billion from her fund. This is the airline that needs her signature to survive the next 2 years. This is how they treat a black woman holding a valid first-class ticket. She could end this entire situation right now. 15 words would be sufficient. I'm Patricia Knox. I'm the CEO who controls your federal loan application. Get your CEO on the phone immediately. 15 words. Thornton would freeze mid-sentence. He would apologize profusely, stumbling over his words. His supervisor would materialize within seconds. The airline's government affairs team would be notified before she reached her seat. Someone would probably offer her champagne and a personal apology from the captain. She doesn't say the words. Patricia chose to let them show who they really are. They were about to show her, in front of 200 witnesses. A thought crystallizes in Patricia's mind, sharp and cold as ice. No. I want to see what happens when they don't know who I am. I want to see how they treat someone they think has no power, someone they believe doesn't matter, someone they assume can't fight back. This is the real evaluation. This is the test that matters. I'll step aside. She moves to a metal bench bolted to the wall of the jet bridge, sits down with her briefcase beside her on the seat, folds her hands in her lap and crosses her ankles. Her posture is straight, almost regal. Her face reveals absolutely nothing of what she is thinking or feeling inside. Thornton reaches for the radio clipped to his belt. This is Thornton at gate B14. I need airport security dispatched immediately. I have a passenger situation that requires assistance. The officers arrive at 6:53 a.m. The timestamp will matter significantly later. The first officer is tall, mid-30s, with close-cropped brown hair and a name tag that reads Callahan. His body camera activates automatically whenever he responds to any call. Small red light blinking steadily. Timestamp embedded in the digital footage. 6:53:22 a.m. The second officer is younger, perhaps late 20s. He hangs back near the entrance of the jet bridge, hand resting casually on his equipment belt, eyes scanning the scene and the gathering crowd of passengers. Gerald Thornton steps forward eagerly to meet them. Officers, thank you for responding so quickly. This passenger has a documentation discrepancy with her ticket. She's been uncooperative with my requests for verification. Officer Callahan looks past Thornton to the bench against the wall. Patricia Knox sits with her hands folded calmly in her lap. Her posture is perfectly straight. Her expression is neutral, almost serene. She has not raised her voice once. She has not stood up aggressively. She has not made any threatening movements whatsoever. Callahan approaches her with professional neutrality. Ma'am, can you tell me what happened here from your perspective? Certainly, officer. I boarded with a valid ticket that scanned green at the machine. Mr. Thornton then asked me to step aside before I could reach my seat. I complied with his request without argument. I've been waiting here cooperatively since then. May I examine your boarding pass and identification, please? She produces both documents without any hesitation. He examines them with careful attention, compares the name on the license to the name printed on the boarding pass, compares the photo to her actual face, checks the seat assignment clearly printed on the ticket. 8A, first class, checks the flight number, 1162, checks the date. Today's date. Everything matches perfectly. There is no discrepancy of any kind. He turns to face Thornton directly. His voice carries a slight edge now that wasn't there before. What exactly is the discrepancy you mentioned in your radio call? Thornton's confidence visibly wavers for the first time since this encounter began. His jaw tightens and his eyes shift. She didn't match the seat assignment. Match in what way, exactly? Please be specific. First-class passengers on this route usually... Thornton stops mid-sentence. He seems to suddenly realize how his words might sound if he finishes them out loud. He glances nervously at the passengers still waiting in line behind them, looks at the two officers, looks at the body camera on Callahan's chest with its blinking red light recording everything. There was an inconsistency in her overall presentation. He finishes weakly, unable to articulate anything more specific. Behind them, the line of delayed passengers has grown substantially. Nearly 200 people are watching this scene unfold now. Some are recording on their phones, holding them casually at their sides. Others are simply staring with expressions ranging from discomfort to outrage. One of those watching with growing anger is Dorothy Coleman. She's 67 years old, white-haired and small-framed, a retired elementary school teacher from Raleigh, North Carolina. She's flying to Boston this morning to see her grandchildren for their birthdays, and right now, she is absolutely furious at what she is witnessing. "This exact thing happened to my daughter," she mutters to her husband standing beside her. "Same gate, same man in that blue vest, 2 years ago. She was humiliated in front of a whole plane full of people. She was so ashamed and embarrassed that she never filed any complaint. Never told anyone outside the family what happened to her." Dorothy pulls out her phone with trembling hands, opens the camera app, angles it toward the scene on the jet bridge, presses the red record button firmly. On the jet bridge, Officer Callahan turns back to Patricia. "Ma'am, is there anything else you would like to add to your account of what happened?" "No, officer. I believe I have told you everything relevant. I had a valid ticket that scanned properly. I was asked to step aside without any explanation. I complied immediately. I have been waiting here cooperatively ever since." Callahan nods once. He looks at Thornton again with obvious skepticism. Looks at the perfectly valid documentation in his hands. Looks at the 200 increasingly restless people waiting to board their flight. "Sir, I don't see any discrepancy whatsoever in this passenger's documentation. Everything appears to be completely in order." Thornton's face reddens with frustration or embarrassment or both. His voice rises slightly in pitch. "I am the supervisor at this gate. I have made a determination that she will not be boarding this particular flight. That decision is within my operational authority." Dorothy Coleman keeps recording steadily. 52 seconds of footage now. Patricia's face is clearly visible. Thornton's name tag is clearly visible. The Horizon logo on the wall is clearly visible. By 9 a.m., Dorothy Coleman's video would have 100,000 views. By 10 a.m., someone would Google Patricia Knox, and Horizon's $5 billion future would hang by a thread. Callahan pauses and takes a breath. He is in an awkward professional position now. The airline does have legal authority over its own boarding decisions. He cannot force a private company to allow any particular passenger onto their aircraft. That is simply not how the law works in these situations. "Ma'am, the airline is declining to board you on this flight. You will need to speak with customer service at the main terminal about rebooking on a later departure." Patricia stands from the bench, slowly, calmly, without any sudden or aggressive movements. "I understand completely." She doesn't argue with the decision. She doesn't demand to speak with a manager. She doesn't threaten to sue anyone or cause a scene. She doesn't raise her voice even slightly. She picks up her briefcase with quiet dignity, walks back down the jet bridge toward the terminal. Her footsteps are steady and unhurried. 200 people watch her leave in complete silence. At the gate area, Patricia stops walking, turns around one final time to face the jet bridge. She addresses Officer Callahan directly, completely ignoring Thornton. "I will need a copy of your body camera footage from this incident. Your department's policy allows citizen requests within 72 hours. Callahan nods professionally. "Yes, ma'am. You can file a formal request with airport administration in the main terminal." She turns to look at Thornton for the first time since leaving the bench. Her voice is perfectly level, no anger audible, no heat, just calm, factual statements. "And I will need your full legal name for my personal records." Thornton stiffens visibly. "Your records? What records?" "Yes, I document everything thoroughly. It's a professional habit." She pauses deliberately, lets the silence stretch for 3 full seconds while maintaining eye contact. "I'll be in touch with you, Mr. Thornton." She turns and walks away without looking back. 7:15 in the morning. Gate B14 is nearly empty now. Flight 162 has pushed back from the gate and taxied toward the active runway. The boarding area has fallen quiet. Raymond Foster is still standing there near the windows. He's 42 years old. financial analyst for a Charlotte-based investment firm specializing in transportation sector analysis. He was standing in line when Patricia was escorted off the jet bridge. He saw her face throughout the entire incident. He saw her remarkable composure under pressure. He saw the look in her eyes when she said those final words, "I'll be in touch." Something about her presence has been nagging at him since she left. This was not a woman who looked frightened or defeated by what happened. This was not someone who seemed powerless or vulnerable. This was a woman who looked like she was methodically collecting evidence, taking careful mental notes, waiting patiently for the right moment. He bends down near the bench where she had been sitting, picks up something small from the floor, half hidden under the metal frame of the seat. A business card, slightly scuffed from being stepped on by passing feet, bent at one corner, but still completely legible. Patricia Knox, Chief Executive Officer, Meridian Capital Infrastructure. Raymond frowns at the card. The company name means nothing to him immediately, but the title catches his full attention. CEO. That is a significant title. Very few CEOs fly commercial airlines without assistants and entourages surrounding them. He opens his phone, types the name into Google search. The first result is from Forbes magazine. Patricia Knox, the CEO who controls $40 billion in federal infrastructure funds. He scrolls down with increasing disbelief. Bloomberg. Meridian Capital CEO has final authority on major transportation loans. Wall Street Journal, dated 3 weeks ago. Horizon Atlantic Airways seeks $5 billion federal loan amid mounting financial struggles. Decision expected within weeks. Raymond Foster's stomach drops. His hands feel suddenly cold despite the warm terminal air. "Oh my God," he whispers. In 4 hours, Bradley Morrison's phone would ring, and he would learn that his airline's entire future just walked off gate B14. Raymond opens Twitter with trembling fingers. Screen records his Google search results, scrolling slowly so viewers can read each headline clearly. Types a caption with careful precision. The woman Horizon just kicked off Flight 162? Her name is Patricia Knox. She's the CEO who decides if they get $5 billion in federal funding, her signature, their survival, and they just escorted her off the plane. He posts it at 7:18 a.m. At 7:19, the tweet has 50 views. By 7:30, it has 5,000. By 8 on Quack, it has crossed 50,000. By 9 on Quack, it has reached 500,000 views and climbing rapidly. It becomes the #1 trending topic in the United States. The comments section explodes with outrage and disbelief. They kicked off the CEO who controls their loan? She could have destroyed them on the spot with one phone call. She said nothing. Absolute queen behavior. This airline is finished. Finished. What were they possibly thinking? News outlets begin picking up the story within the hour. CNN runs a breaking news banner across the bottom of the screen. MSNBC interrupts their regular morning programming. Fox Business leads their financial coverage with it. CEO of Federal Infrastructure Fund removed from airline flight. Same airline currently seeking her approval for $5 billion loan. Meanwhile, Patricia Knox sits in the back seat of an Uber, heading home to change her flight arrangements. Her phone buzzes constantly with incoming notifications, dozens of calls and messages. She ignores every single one of them without reading. She opens her laptop in the car, pulls up the Horizon loan application file, reads through their financial projections and route maps with fresh and focused eyes. At Horizon Atlantic corporate headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, the morning is proceeding completely normally. No one in the building has flagged the Twitter thread yet. The public relations team is fully occupied with a mechanical delay situation in Denver that has stranded passengers overnight. The government affairs team is preparing routine briefing materials for an upcoming congressional hearing about airline fees. Bradley Morrison, the airline's chief operating officer, is sitting in a quarterly budget review meeting in the large conference room on the 14th floor. His phone is set to silent mode in his jacket pocket. Gerald Thornton clocks out of his shift at Charlotte Douglas at 7:45 a.m., drives home to his apartment, pours himself a cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal, turns on the morning news while he eats breakfast, thinks briefly about the difficult passenger he handled earlier, thinks he managed the situation professionally and well. He doesn't know the truth yet. None of them know anything yet. 11:00 in the morning. Horizon Atlantic Airways corporate headquarters, Atlanta, Georgia. The building is a gleaming glass tower located near Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. 14 stories of corporate offices filled with the thousands of people who keep a major airline operating daily. Bradley Morrison sits in his corner office on the executive floor. He is 58 years old, with carefully styled silver hair and the confident bearing of someone who has spent 3 decades in corporate executive suites. Chief Operating Officer of Horizon Atlantic. 22 years with this company, starting when it was still a small regional carrier with only 30 aircraft. He helped build it into a national airline serving 40 cities. He reports directly to CEO Douglas Whitmore. He is responsible for everything that happens on the ground: gates, crews, customer service. When something goes wrong at any airport in their network, it ultimately lands on his desk for resolution. His phone rings. The internal caller ID shows the legal department extension. "Brad, we need to talk immediately. It's urgent." It's Victoria Lawson on the line, General Counsel for Horizon Atlantic. She has been with the company for 9 years. She does not call Bradley Morrison directly unless something is genuinely serious. "What kind of situation are we dealing with, Victoria?" "That incident this morning at Charlotte Douglas, Gate B14. Morrison frowns and leans back in his leather chair. He saw a brief operational report about it earlier in his morning briefing email. Gate supervisor exercised discretion regarding a passenger. Passenger declined to board after questioning, rebooked on a later flight. Standard operational notation. These things happen occasionally at every airline." "The difficult passenger situation?" I glanced at the summary. Gate supervisor made a professional judgment call. "What about it specifically?" "Brad, her name is Patricia Knox." Pause. The name does not register immediately in his memory. Should that name mean something to me? She's the CEO of Meridian Capital Infrastructure. Morrison's hand tightens involuntarily on the phone receiver. Meridian Capital. That name he knows instantly. Every airline executive in America knows that company name. They manage the Federal Transportation Infrastructure Fund. $40 billion in federal money earmarked for transportation companies struggling to modernize. She has final approval authority on all federal infrastructure loans over $1 billion, Victoria continues in a carefully controlled voice, including any applications currently in review. Longer pause. Morrison feels his stomach clench with sudden dread. "Including our $5 billion application." Dead silence on the phone line. 5 seconds pass, 10 seconds, 15. "Brad, are you still there?" "Get me everyone. Legal, public relations, government affairs, investor relations. In my office. Right now. Not in 10 minutes. Immediately." He hangs up the phone. Stares at the wall of his corner office. Through the floor-to-ceiling window behind his desk, he can see a Horizon aircraft lifting off the runway in the distance. One of 18 scheduled departures this hour from their Atlanta hub. The woman his gate supervisor removed from a flight this morning. The woman Gerald Thornton said didn't match the first-class cabin. The woman airport police officers escorted through the terminal while passengers recorded on their phones. She controls whether Horizon Atlantic survives the next 2 years. At the same moment in Charlotte, Nathan Wells is watching the viral video on his laptop in his home office. He is 38 years old, investigative reporter for the Charlotte Observer newspaper, 15 years covering corporate accountability stories throughout the Southeast. He won a regional journalism award 2 years ago for his investigative series on predatory auto lending practices. He recognizes a pattern story when he sees one developing. He watches Dorothy Coleman's video 3 times in succession, watches the body language carefully, watches the facial expressions, watches Patricia Knox's remarkably calm face as she is escorted away from the aircraft. Then he starts making phone calls and sending emails. He files an expedited FOIA request for Charlotte Douglas Airport police records, specifically any incidents involving Gate B14 at the Horizon Atlantic Terminal over the past 3 years. He contacts his sources at various airline industry trade groups, asks pointed questions about complaint patterns and gate agent discretion policies and employee training protocols. He reaches out to former Horizon Atlantic employees through LinkedIn and other professional networks, sends carefully worded messages explaining that he is working on a story and looking for background information. One of them responds within 2 hours. I might be able to help you with what you're looking for, but I absolutely cannot go on the official record. I signed a non-disclosure agreement when I left the company last year. That's perfectly fine for now. I just need documentation to point me in the right direction. I can get you access to something internal. Give me until this evening to pull it together safely. They finally know who she is now. You would think they would apologize immediately. You would think they would beg for her forgiveness. But Bradley Morrison is about to make everything much, much worse. Stay with me. Morrison thought he could charm his way out of this disaster. He was about to discover that Patricia Knox doesn't negotiate with anyone. She evaluates, and Horizon was failing every single test. At 4:00 p.m. that same afternoon, Nathan Wells is looking at a confidential spreadsheet on his laptop screen. Horizon Atlantic's internal customer escalation tracker database, a comprehensive record of complaints filed against customer-facing employees throughout the company. He has filtered the results by a single employee name. Gerald Thornton, 23 formal complaints filed, 18 months of documented incidents. The pattern revealed in the data is stark and undeniable. 19 of the 23 complainants are passengers of color. He reads through the complaint descriptions with growing concern. Asked to prove I could afford my ticket. Questioned whether my identification was genuine. Made me feel like I didn't belong in the first-class cabin. Called security when I politely asked why I was being delayed. Told me my boarding pass looked wrong even though it scanned green. The complaint dispositions recorded in the database are nearly identical in every case. Resolved internally. Customer compensated with travel voucher. No further action required. Case closed. Not one formal reprimand anywhere in Gerald Thornton's personnel file. Not one required retraining session. Not one documented disciplinary conversation with supervisors. So, day 3 after the incident. Bradley Morrison calls Patricia Knox's direct office line. She doesn't answer. He leaves a voicemail message. His voice is smooth and polished, professionally warm and apologetic. The practiced voice of a man who has apologized to angry shareholders, skeptical regulators, and frustrated passengers for more than 2 decades. Ms. Knox, this is Bradley Morrison, Chief Operating Officer of Horizon Atlantic Airways. I want to express my deepest and most sincere personal apology for the incident at our Charlotte gate. What happened was completely unacceptable and does not reflect our company values. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. I am absolutely certain we can work something out that addresses your concerns. The loan situation is very important to our company and our 12,000 employees. Patricia listens to the voicemail that evening in her home office. She saves it to her files for documentation purposes. She doesn't call back. Day 4. A courier package arrives at Meridian Capital's headquarters in downtown Washington. Hand-delivered. Addressed to Patricia Knox personally. Marked confidential. Inside, 2 first-class tickets on Horizon Atlantic Airways valid for life. A handwritten letter on expensive cream stationery from CEO Douglas Whitmore expressing profound personal regret. And a cashier's check, $500,000. The memo line reads simply, "For your inconvenience." Patricia's assistant brings the unopened package to her office. Should I prepare a response? Return everything immediately. Include a brief note. Ms. Knox declines to accept these items and has no further comment at this time. Nothing more than that. Day 5. Nathan Wells publishes his investigation in the Charlotte Observer. 23 complaints against Horizon Gate agent went unaddressed for 18 months. Internal documents reveal disturbing pattern. The article names Gerald Thornton, details the documented pattern meticulously, includes direct quotes from the internal complaint database, quotes the regional manager's email about avoiding external channels and protecting the brand. Horizon Atlantic's stock price drops 4% before the noon hour. Day 6. Horizon changes its strategy significantly. A cease and desist letter arrives at the Charlotte Observer via certified mail. Defamatory statements based on unverified sources. Serious damage to corporate reputation. Immediate retraction demanded within 48 hours. Substantial legal damages will be pursued. The same afternoon, an internal Horizon email leaks to Nathan Wells. Someone inside the company has forwarded it anonymously. It's from Morrison to the legal department. We need leverage against Wells immediately. Find out who his sources are inside the company. And research Patricia Knox thoroughly. Her background, her history, her past decisions. Look for absolutely anything we can potentially use against her. Any weakness or vulnerability. Nathan calls Patricia that evening to warn her. They're threatening to sue my newspaper. And according to this leaked email, they're actively investigating your background, looking for anything they can use to discredit you. Patricia's voice remains completely steady. Let them dig. Let them threaten. Aren't you concerned about what they might find or try to fabricate? Mr. Wells, I have been underestimated and investigated my entire professional career. Let them underestimate me one more time. Day 7. Morrison makes one final attempt at direct contact. This time, Patricia answers her phone. Ms. Knox, Patricia. His voice is warm, overly familiar, as if they are old colleagues. May I call you Patricia? I feel like we have gotten off on the wrong foot here. What do you want, Mr. Morrison? I want to make this right, whatever it takes. The loan is important to both of us. Long pause. Mr. Morrison, are you attempting to influence a federal funding decision? Dead silence on the line. Because if that is what is happening in this conversation, I should inform you that this call is being documented for the official record. That's certainly not what I meant. I think we're finished here, Mr. Morrison. Do not contact me again. Click. Morrison thought he had one card left to play. Attack her credibility. Remove her from the decision entirely. It was the worst strategic mistake of his entire career. Quyen Phan Huy. Horizon's public position. That same evening, Bradley Morrison appears on CNBC for a live interview about the developing situation. We take all customer concerns extremely seriously at Horizon Atlantic. Mr. Thornton has been placed on paid administrative leave pending a comprehensive internal review of this incident. Horizon does not tolerate discrimination of any kind, and we never have throughout our company's history. The interviewer presses him directly on the most sensitive issue. What about Patricia Knox specifically? Given the circumstances of this incident, should she recuse herself from the decision on your company's loan application? Morrison's smile is thin and carefully practiced. Ms. Knox is obviously a well-respected professional with an impressive career, but she was directly and personally involved in an incident with our company. There is a legitimate question about whether anyone in that position can remain truly objective about our application. We have raised this concern through appropriate regulatory channels. Night 8. Patricia Knox's condominium. Charlotte, North Carolina. The television glows silently in her dark living room. She has muted the sound, but her face appears on every news channel she clicks through. CNN, should she decide? Critics question whether bias victim can remain objective on federal loan decision. MSNBC. Horizon Atlantic formally seeks recusal of fund CEO. Ethics questions raised by both sides. A talking head in an expensive suit fills the screen. She can read his lips even without the sound on. She was publicly humiliated by this company, escorted off a plane like some kind of criminal. Can we honestly expect her to make a fair and impartial decision about billions of taxpayer dollars? Another pundit responds immediately. This is clearly a conflict of interest situation. She should do the ethical thing and voluntarily step aside from this decision. Let someone without personal involvement make this call. Patricia turns off the television with the remote. The room goes completely dark except for the city lights visible through the window. She walks to the window, looks out at Charlotte spread below her. She can see the airport in the distance, runway lights blinking in sequence, planes taking off and landing on schedule throughout the night. Thousands of people moving through terminals, catching flights, living their lives. Most of them will never know her name or care about any of her decisions. She returns to her desk, opens her laptop, pulls up the Horizon loan application file one more time. The numbers have not changed since yesterday. They are brutally clear. Without this $5 billion in federal funding, Horizon Atlantic will likely violate their debt covenants within 90 days. A credit rating downgrade will follow inevitably. Borrowing costs will spike. Routes will be cut. Employees will be laid off by the thousands. 12,000 people who did absolutely nothing wrong could lose their jobs and their health insurance. Pension obligations for thousands of retirees could be compromised or eliminated entirely. She closes the laptop. Her mother's watch ticks steadily on her wrist, the only sound in the quiet room. She remembers her mother coming home from the hospital after brutal double shifts. Feet swollen in her white nursing shoes, back aching from lifting patients all day. Sometimes there were tears she tried unsuccessfully to hide from her daughter. A doctor had yelled at her in front of patients and their families, called her incompetent in front of everyone. She was never incompetent, not once in 40 years. Her mother said the same thing every single time. Don't let them make you bitter, baby. Don't let them turn you into what they are. That's how they win. If she denies the loan, is that justice? Is that accountability? Or is it just revenge dressed up in professional language? If she approves it unchanged, is she rewarding their behavior? Telling every company in America that they can treat people however they want and still get what they need? What is the right answer? Is there even a right answer? She could have taken revenge. She could have walked away completely from this decision. What she did instead, I didn't see it coming. And neither did Bradley Morrison. Her phone buzzes on the desk beside her laptop. Unknown number. She almost ignores it automatically. Something makes her look at the screen. A text message from someone she doesn't know. Ms. Knox, you don't know me. My name is Sandra Mitchell. I am a flight attendant for Horizon Atlantic Airways. I was working flight 162 the morning you were removed from the aircraft. I saw everything that happened to you at the gate. Patricia reads the message twice to make sure she understands it correctly. Another text appears immediately after the first. I have something important you need to hear. It's not about what happened at the gate itself. It's about what happened afterward. What the executives said in a meeting when they found out who you really are. I recorded the entire conversation. Patricia's fingers move quickly across the screen. When can we meet in person? The response comes within seconds. Tomorrow. Anywhere you choose. Somewhere private. I could lose my job for doing this. I know that. I don't care anymore. Day 9. 5 additional victims come forward publicly. Different flights over the past 2 years. Different dates. Different cities of origin. But the same gate at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. The same supervisor in the blue vest. A black cardiologist from Duke University Medical Center. He asked me point blank if I could actually afford my first-class ticket. I was still wearing my hospital ID badge with my credentials clearly visible. a Latina professor from UNC Chapel Hill. He examined my university faculty ID card and loudly announced that it didn't look official to him. I had just returned from presenting my research at an academic conference in Geneva. An indigenous veteran with silver hair and combat service ribbons visible on his jacket lapel. He demanded to see my military orders as proof I could travel. I was simply flying home to see my grandchildren for Christmas. I haven't been asked for military orders in 40 years. A black teenager, 14 years old, flying alone to visit her father in Philadelphia. He announced that my ticket was probably some kind of computer error, made me stand aside by myself while every single other passenger boarded the plane. A South Asian aerospace engineer with his company ID clipped to his briefcase. He pulled me aside for what he called a random security inspection, made me open every single pocket and compartment of my carry-on bag. I stood there and watched him wave through 50 other passengers without asking them a single question. Press conference. Stone steps of the Mecklenburg County Courthouse in Charlotte. 12 faces standing together in the October afternoon sun. 12 different people. 12 different stories. One identical pattern. Dorothy Coleman steps to the microphone. Her voice shakes with emotion but does not break. My daughter was one of them. 2 years ago. Same gate. Same man in the blue vest. She was so humiliated by what happened that she couldn't even talk about it afterward. She thought no one would ever believe her. She thought she was completely alone. Dorothy pauses, wipes her eyes with a tissue. Now she knows she wasn't alone. Now she knows people will believe her story. Patricia had the public pressure building, but she needed more than public opinion. She needed proof of what happened behind closed doors. And Sandra Mitchell had exactly that. That night, Patricia meets Sandra Mitchell, a coffee shop in a strip mall on the outskirts of Charlotte. Fluorescent lights, mostly empty booths at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. Back booth. Sandra is visibly nervous. Her hands tremble noticeably when she lifts her coffee cup. She's wearing civilian clothes, faded jeans, a gray sweater, but she keeps touching her collar unconsciously as if adjusting a uniform that isn't there. I could lose my job for doing this. I could lose my pension. I could be blacklisted from the entire airline industry. I understand the risk you're taking. Why are you here despite all that? Sandra takes a deep, shaky breath. Because Gerald Thornton did the exact same thing to my younger sister. 3 years ago at that same gate. She filed a formal complaint through every possible channel. Human resources, customer service, the union. Nothing happened. Nobody cared. She switched to Delta and has never flown Horizon again. Sandra slides her phone across the table toward Patricia. The day after your incident. Emergency executive meeting at headquarters in Atlanta. Senior leaders flew in from 3 different cities. I was assigned to serve coffee and refreshments in the boardroom. They didn't notice I was still in the room when the real conversation started. She taps the screen. I recorded everything they said. Patricia puts earbuds in her ears, presses play on the audio file. Bradley Morrison's voice, slightly muffled but clearly audible. Who exactly is this woman they pulled off the plane? Another voice. An assistant. Her name is Patricia Knox. She's the CEO of Meridian Capital Infrastructure. She controls our federal loan application. Long, heavy pause on the recording. Several seconds of complete silence. Morrison's voice again, noticeably lower and more intense now. If she denies us that loan, this company is completely finished. Do you all understand me? Finished. Bankrupt within 2 years. What should we do? Morrison's voice drops even further, almost to a hiss. Whatever it takes. Charm her. Pay her off. If that doesn't work, then discredit her publicly. Get her removed from this decision entirely. I don't care how you do it. Just make this entire problem go away. The recording ends. Patricia removes the earbuds slowly. Her face reveals nothing of what she is thinking. Sandra's voice is barely above a whisper. Is that enough evidence? That's enough. Day 10. Patricia Knox's office, Washington, D.C. Dawn is breaking over the Potomac River. She hasn't slept all night. 3 documents sit open on her computer screen. Option 1. Deny the loan entirely. Horizon doesn't get the money. 12,000 jobs at risk. Possible bankruptcy. And Patricia gets labeled as vindictive and biased. Option 2. Approve the loan as submitted. Horizon gets $5 billion. Business continues as usual. The pattern continues unchanged. Neither option feels right. Neither serves justice. Neither creates meaningful change. She starts typing a third document. Recommendation. Conditional approval. Subject to the following mandatory requirements. 1. Immediate termination of Gerald Thornton for documented pattern of discriminatory conduct. 2. Termination or reassignment of Bradley Morrison for cover-up and attempted interference with a federal funding decision. 3. Independent Oversight Committee for Customer Complaints with quarterly public reporting. 4. Mandatory bias training for all customer-facing employees with third-party verification. 5. $10 million compensation fund for documented victims. 6. Compliance audits at 12 and 24 months. Failure to meet requirements will result in loan recall with penalty interest. She signs it electronically. She used her power the only way it should be used, not for revenge, for change. Tomorrow, CEO Patricia Knox would walk into a federal hearing room. Bradley Morrison would be sitting in the front row, and he would hear every single condition, one by one. Day 11, Federal Infrastructure Investment Board Headquarters, Washington, D.C. The hearing room is formal and imposing. Dark wood paneling rises to a high ceiling. Long tables arranged in a U-shape face the raised dais. The seal of the Department of Transportation hangs on the wall in gold and blue. Senator Margaret Holloway presides from the center position. She's 63, silver-haired, chair of the Transportation Infrastructure Subcommittee. She has overseen hundreds of these hearings during her career. This one feels different. The gallery is packed to capacity. Financial press, industry analysts, television cameras from 4 networks, front row, center section. Douglas Whitmore, CEO of Horizon Atlantic Airways in a charcoal suit. Bradley Morrison sits beside him, jaw tight, eyes fixed straight ahead. 3 corporate lawyers flank them with legal pads ready. Senator Holloway gavels the session to order. This hearing will review the pending loan application from Horizon Atlantic Airways. Ms. Knox, you have the floor. Patricia stands from her seat. Navy blazer, white blouse, mother's watch on her wrist. She walks to the microphone. Her footsteps echo on the marble floor. Thank you, Senator. I will be brief. She does not look at Morrison. On October 23rd, I boarded a Horizon Atlantic flight at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. I held a valid first-class ticket. I had committed no violation whatsoever. I was removed from that flight by an employee named Gerald Thornton. She pauses deliberately, lets the words settle. That incident revealed a documented pattern. 23 formal complaints against Mr. Thornton over 18 months. 19 from passengers of color. Not one complaint resulted in any disciplinary action. Another pause. That incident also revealed a corporate culture. When Horizon leadership discovered my identity, they did not apologize. They attempted to bribe me with $500,000. They threatened a journalist. They attempted to have me removed from this decision entirely. Now she turns, looks directly at Bradley Morrison. I possess a recording of Chief Operating Officer Bradley Morrison instructing his staff to, and I quote directly, "Make this go away, and to do whatever it takes." Morrison's face loses all color. My recommendation to this board is conditional approval. She reads each requirement, slowly, clearly. Termination of Gerald Thornton. Termination or reassignment of Bradley Morrison. Independent oversight, public reporting, compensation fund, compliance audits. She closes her folder. Horizon can accept these conditions and receive $5 billion in federal funding, or decline and explain to 12,000 employees why executive pride was more important than their jobs. She returns to her seat. Silence in the hearing room. Senator Holloway turns to the front row. Mr. Whitmore, does Horizon wish to respond? Douglas Whitmore stands slowly. He's 61 years old, 8 years as CEO. He knows when he has lost. He does not look at Bradley Morrison. Senator, his voice is hoarse. Horizon Atlantic accepts the conditions as stated. Morrison's head drops toward his chest. Patricia didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She didn't take personal revenge. She simply stated the conditions. And with each one, Bradley Morrison's career ended a little more. Day 12. Horizon Atlantic Airways issues an official press release. Gerald Thornton, terminated for cause, effective immediately, no severance package, no letter of recommendation. Bradley Morrison, resigned from his position as Chief Operating Officer, effective immediately, to pursue other opportunities. Day 30. The Independent Oversight Committee holds its inaugural meeting in Atlanta. Their first quarterly report will be published online for public review. Day 60. 5 documented victims of discrimination receive financial settlements from the compensation fund. No non-disclosure agreements required. They can tell their stories whenever and wherever they choose. Day 90. First compliance audit completed. Horizon Atlantic passes all requirements. Patricia Knox releases a single public statement. 6 sentences. This situation was never about me personally. It was about the 23 others. And it was about the next passenger, whoever they are, who won't have to prove they deserve to be there. 3 months later, Charlotte Douglas International Airport, early morning. Patricia Knox walks through TSA pre-check, finds gate B14, boards a Horizon Atlantic flight to Washington. Coach class, same as always. A young gate agent checks her boarding pass. Professional. Smiles genuinely. Have a wonderful flight, Miss Knox. She nods, boards, takes her seat. No one stops her. No one questions her. But that's not the victory. The victory is that the next passenger, whoever they are, whatever they look like, might not be stopped either. If this story meant something to you, share it. Not for the algorithm. For someone who needs to know, power isn't about revenge, it's about change. Subscribe. We're not done telling these stories.